My name is Crystal. Standing here on my porch, watching the police lead my so-called family away in handcuffs, I'm flooded with a mix of shock, anger, and an odd sense of relief. It's hard to believe that just moments ago, I caught them red-handed trying to break into my house again, after all the warnings and the restraining order. I remember the first time I felt the sting of family betrayal. Growing up in San Francisco, I thought we were a normal family. My father, Henry, was a stockbroker, and my mother, Olivia, was a high-end fashion designer. My older sister, Sophia, was the rebellious one, always getting into trouble, and my younger brother, Ethan, was the quiet, studious type. I was the middle child, the one who tried to keep the peace. But then, the 2009 financial crisis hit. My father's business took a nosedive, and he started to change. He became moody and distant, often coming home drunk. My mother, on the other hand, became more focused on her career, spending long hours at the studio. The fights between them became more frequent, and the atmosphere at home was tense. By the time I was in my senior year of high school, the family was falling apart. My sister dropped out of school and started hanging out with a bad crowd. My brother became withdrawn, and I was left to deal with the chaos. When my parents finally divorced, it felt like the end of the world. My mother got the house, and my father moved into a small apartment downtown. I went to college in Los Angeles, majoring in business with a focus on interior design. It was a fresh start for me, away from the toxicity of my family. I made new friends, and I was doing well in my studies. But every time I came home for the holidays, it was like stepping back into a war zone. After college, I landed a job at a prestigious interior design firm in San Francisco. I was excited to be back in the city, but I soon realized that my family's problems were far from over. Every time we had a family gathering, it was always about money. Sophia needed a loan to start a new business, Ethan needed help with his tuition, and my mother was constantly complaining about the high cost of living. One day, Sophia came to me and asked for $30,000 to invest in a new clothing line. I told her I didn't have that kind of money, and even if I did, I wasn't sure it was a good investment. She got angry and started yelling at me, saying that I was selfish and that I didn't care about the family. My mother sided with her, and Ethan just sat there, looking uncomfortable. That was the last straw for me. I told them that I was done being their punching bag, that I needed to focus on my own life. Sophia sneered at me and said, "You don't have a family anymore, so stop pretending you do." And with that, I walked out of the house and I didn't look back. For the next 5 years, I cut off all contact with my family. I focused on my career, and I built a new life for myself. I met some great friends, and I even started dating a wonderful man, Daniel. But then, my great-aunt, Mildred, passed away. She was the only one in my family who had always been kind to me. When her lawyer contacted me about the will, I was shocked to learn that she had left me her beautiful Victorian house in the heart of San Francisco, worth over $1 million. I moved into the house 2 months later. It was like a dream come true. The house had all the original woodwork, stained glass windows, and a large garden. I finally felt like I had a place to call my own. But that peace didn't last long. A few weeks after I moved in, I started getting strange messages from my sister. First, it was a Facebook friend request, which I ignored. Then Ethan sent me a text asking how I was doing. I replied politely, but briefly. And then, my mother left me a voicemail saying that it was time to put the past behind us and that family was family. I was skeptical, but a small part of me wanted to believe that they had changed. So I agreed to meet Sophia for coffee. When I saw her, she looked different. She was wearing expensive clothes, but there was a desperation in her eyes. She started talking about how hard life had been for her, how her business had failed, and how she was struggling to make ends meet. She even mentioned that she and her husband, Ryan, were about to lose their apartment. I listened to her, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was manipulating me. After the coffee meeting, the contact from my family increased. Ethan invited me to lunch, and my mother called me several times. And then I had to go to New York for a week-long design conference. I asked my 80-year-old neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, who had been friends with my great-aunt for years, to keep an eye on my house. She agreed, and I gave her a spare key for emergencies. I left for New York, excited about the conference. But on the third day, my phone rang. It was Mrs. Thompson. She sounded worried and said that my family had come to her, asking for the spare key. They said that I had asked them to come and drop off some things while I was away. My blood ran cold. I told Mrs. Thompson not to give them the key, and I immediately booked a flight back to San Francisco. When I arrived at my house, I saw a moving truck parked in my driveway. My family was in the middle of moving their furniture in. I was furious. I confronted them, and they tried to come up with all sorts of excuses. My mother said that it made sense for us to live together, that we could help each other out. But I knew it was all a lie. I called the police, and they came and told my family to leave. But they didn't give up. After that, they started a campaign of harassment. They called me constantly, left me threatening voicemails, and even showed up at my workplace. I was at my wit's end. I talked to my friend, Daniel, who is a lawyer, and he advised me to get a restraining order. I did, and for a while things were quiet. But then, the rumors started. My family was spreading stories about me, saying that I was mentally unstable, that I had stolen the house from them. The rumors started to affect my work. Clients started canceling meetings, and my colleagues started to look at me differently. I was devastated. I knew I had to do something. I hired a private investigator, Mr. Green, to find out what they were up to. After a few days, he called me and asked to meet. When I met him at a coffee shop, he showed me some shocking documents. My sister and her husband had accumulated over $150,000 in gambling debts. My mother had refinanced the house she got from the divorce 3 times and was on the verge of foreclosure. And Ethan had a child out of wedlock and was behind on child support. But that wasn't all. Mr. Green also told me that my family had been planning to move into my house for months, with the intention of establishing residency. They had even made copies of my house keys and had been sneaking into my house while I was at work. I was horrified. I knew I had to fight back. I worked with Daniel and a legal team to build a case against my family. We came up with a plan, a sting operation. I made it look like I was going on another business trip, but in reality, I stayed nearby. And today, it all paid off. They walked right into our trap. As I watch them being led away, I know that this is just the beginning of the end. But I also know that I've finally taken back control of my life. After the legal process, my family agreed to a settlement. They signed admissions of wrongdoing, agreed to permanent restraining orders, and promised never to challenge my great-aunts will again. In return, I agreed to reduce charges. The legal victory brought a sense of relief, but also a deep sadness. The family I once knew was gone. I started to focus on healing. I renovated my house, turning it into a place of peace. I also established the Mildred Reynolds Foundation, a non-profit to help young people who had been through similar family traumas. Months later, I received a letter from Ethan. He apologized for his actions and said that he was trying to turn his life around. I decided to respond cautiously, acknowledging his efforts, but not ready for a full-blown relationship. Life has moved on. I've been promoted at work, and my relationship with Daniel has grown stronger. I've also become closer to Mrs. Thompson, who has become like a grandmother to me. And I've learned that family isn't defined by blood. It's the people who love and support you, who stand by you through thick and thin.